All right, so today we're going to dive into something, well, a little different. This isn't your typical encyclopedia, the kind that lists all the things that exist. No, this one's about everything that stops existing. It's all about what falls apart, what dissolves, and maybe what was never really that solid to begin with. It's called the Encyclopedia of Dissolving. And right from the very first page, the book hits you with this dedication. It says, "For the ones mid-dissolve, which is everyone, which is always." I mean, wow. Doesn't that just stop you in your tracks? Right away, the whole idea gets flipped on its head. This isn't some problem we need to solve. It's just part of being human. Something that connects every single one of us, like all the time. And that dedication leads us to the core question of this whole thing. The question that's going to guide us through this entire journey. It's this. What if coming apart is what everything does? Seriously, what if we've been looking at it all wrong? Maybe it's not a failure or some big disaster. Maybe it's just the natural order of things. Okay, so a concept this huge, where do you even start? Well, the encyclopedia tells us we need to begin with the very first wound. The first time we ever experience this kind of dissolving on a really personal level. We're talking about abandonment, but not in some abstract, philosophical way. No, this is primal. It's physical. It's that deep animal kind of feeling. The feeling of being held, safe, and then suddenly, you're not. It's something your body learns, like deep in your bones, way before your brain can even form the words to describe it. And the way the book describes the aftermath of that, it's just so powerful. It says the silence that's left behind isn't just empty space. It has the exact shape of what used to be there. It calls it a room-shaped wound. How incredible is that? It's like the absence itself becomes a tangible thing. And this really gets to the heart of why it hurts so much. Think about it with math, right? Normally, 1 minus 1 equals 0. Simple. You're back to where you started. But in what the book calls abandonment math, 1 minus 1 equals -1. You're left with less than nothing. It's not a subtraction, it's an amputation. And you're left with that phantom ache where something important used to be. But, and this is a huge but, this is where things take a turn. The book says this isn't just about an ending. It's also a kind of birth. It's like being forced into a chrysalis. The old you literally dissolves, turns into this, I don't know, this organic soup. And yeah, that sounds terrifying. It is terrifying. But it's also the only way for something completely new to be built from scratch. So, this whole process of dissolving, it's not just about what happens to us from the outside. It's also happening inside of us. It's happening to the very idea of who we think we are, the story of I. I mean, just think about all the different identities we try on throughout our lives, right? You're the child, then the student, the lover. Maybe you become a professional, a parent, a patient. And when you're in one of those roles, it feels so solid. It feels like you. But really, each one is kind of like a temporary costume we wear for a specific chapter of our lives. Which leads to this absolutely mind-blowing idea that I, our sense of self, isn't some fixed, solid thing at all. It's a story, a tale that we tell ourselves, a narrative with a main character. And you know what the most powerful thing about a story is? You can rewrite it. The protagonist can always change. Okay, so we've looked at the deeply personal, and we've looked at the internal story of ourselves. Now, let's zoom the camera all the way out. I mean, way, way out, to the grand scale of civilizations, and see how this very same pattern shows up. The book lays it out with this really simple, bold statement. Everything built will fall. And look, that's not meant to be a downer. It's just presented as a fact, a consistent pattern throughout history. This idea of impermanence, it doesn't just apply to us as individuals. It applies to our biggest, grandest creations too. Just look at this list. You got the Roman Empire, the classic Maya, the Khmer Empire, the Aztecs. When you see them all lined up like that, one after the other, it hits you. Collapse isn't some weird, rare event. It's more like a recurring rhythm, a beat in the long song of human history. So if everything, and I mean everything, our relationships, our identities, even our civilizations, if it all dissolves, then what the heck is left? What is there to hold on to? Well, the book suggests the answer isn't in all the noise and the action. It's in the silence. And believe it or not, the key is as close as your own breath. Think about it. We are practicing this very cycle of creating and dissolving thousands of times every single day, and we don't even think about it. Every time you breathe in, that's a little life. Every time you breathe out, a little death. And that's not just some poetic metaphor, that's literally what's happening physiologically.
But then there's that pause, that little moment of nothing, the space between the end of your exhale and the beginning of your next inhale, just absolute stillness.
And here's the big secret. That gap, that little moment of silence, it isn't actually empty. It's a window. It's an opening to the one thing that doesn't dissolve. That quiet, constant awareness that's just there. It's there before you breathe in, it's there after you breathe out. It's the space where everything else happens. Which brings us to our final stop on this journey. And here, this whole idea of dissolving gets completely reframed by looking at it through the lens of one of our most powerful experiences, love. And this is such a profound shift in perspective. The book says that what feels like the end of love, a breakup, a loss, it isn't actually the love being destroyed. It's the love being transformed. The love itself doesn't just disappear into thin air. It changes its form. So we circle right back to that idea of life as a story. The end of a relationship or a job or an identity we used to hold, that's just the dissolution of one particular chapter. But that ending, that very act of dissolving, is what creates the blank page. It's the opening for a brand new story to start. And in the end, the encyclopedia doesn't give us a neat little answer. It leaves us with a question, a really empowering one. If all this dissolving is really just the space between the stories, and you're the one holding the pen, what story are you going to tell next?